and he is going to present his talk on emergence of antimicrobial resistance in foodborne pathogens. Second eminent speaker for today's session, Dr. Satyavir Singh Malik. Sir is the retired recently, last month only, sir is the retired head department division of veterinary public health and
त्याच्यापेक्षा
scientific
नाही म्हणत नाही.
secretary to the
फक्त
director
तेवढंच की आपण इग्नोर करायचं की सगळं व्यवस्थित आहे. बरोबर.
IVR, IVRI
Yes.
Ijatnagar, and sir is going to present his topic on relevance of One Health approach to food safety. So all the participants are requested to be muted, and whenever miss after the lecture, if you have any doubts, questions, queries, you can give your suggestions, you can ask the questions, because today's topics are very relevant, very important as far as our training point of view. 4-week certificate course that is on enhancing livestock production and food safety through One Health approach. So again, we will wait for 1-2 minutes and then we will continue. Thank you. Dear participants, and once again, a very warm good morning to you all. Now, for today's session, the first speaker, as I said just now, Dr. Junjar B. Dubal. He will talk on emergence of antimicrobial resistance in foodborne pathogens. So, before start the session, now I request Dr. R.S. Gandage Madam. She is working as Professor, Department of Veterinary Microbiology, and co-PI of this NAHEP Cast MAPSU project, as well as the organizing secretary of this 4-week certificate course. So I request Madam to give brief introduction about the Dr. Chunjar B. Dubal. Madam, please.
Thank you, Dr. Vaidya. I am happy to introduce today's first speaker of 4-week certificate course, Dr. Jhadvi Dubal, who is working as a principal scientist of veterinary public health in the division of veterinary public health, ICR IVRI Izzatnagar Bareilly. Presently, Dr. Dubal is working on antimicrobial resistance, that is mainly extended spectrum of beta-lactam producing E. coli and methicillin resistant Staphylococcus aureus pathogens and their virulence markers from food of animal origin and its associated environment. Dr. Dubal initiated and associated with many diagnostic procedures, research programs on antimicrobial resistance and rotavirus. He conducted several awareness programs on clean milk production, zoonotic pathogens, and antimicrobial resistance in foodborne pathogens. He has handled many projects and presently handling prestigious Indo-UK collaborative project on antimicrobial uh, resistance funded by DBT and ICR FAO collaborative project on Indian Network of Fishery and Animal Antimicrobial Resistance, that is INFA, as PI, that is Principal Investigator of IVRI Center. Dr. Dubal has been guided 12 masters and 2 PhD students, and their research outputs on AMR and rotaviruses are published in more than 50 national and international journals, in addition to popular articles, book chapters, extension folders, etc. Dr. Dubal's aim is to develop intervention strategies for improving the microbiological quality and food safety and safety of the food of animal origin. So, Dr. Dubal is having a very important practical aim. So, our best wishes for Dr. Dubal to develop strategies for food safety and quality. We also thank Dr. Dubal for accepting the invitation for today's speech. Now, I request Dr. Dubal to deliver the speech on emergence of antimicrobial resistance in foodborne pathogen, which is his specialty field. Dr. Dubal, please.
Thank you, Dr. Rajeshri Madam, for nice and brief introduction. First of all, before starting my lecture, I would like to thank the organizers, especially Dr. Jhende sir and Dr. Vilas and Dr. Rajeshri, who have given me the opportunity to speak on my interesting topic, that is on the antimicrobial resistance. And I also like to thank the Vice Chancellor as well as the Dr. Paturkar and the Dean, Dr. Rane Desar, for supporting this valuable program. So with this, I would like to request all the participants, some of them I saw, I recognize them, they pass out from the IVRI itself, and I hope they are listening to me, and all the participants, they will listen this topic carefully, because this is very emerging and important topic nowadays. Usually we can see many cases around us, they are suffering from the antimicrobial resistance. So this is very important. So this is the first slide. If you see, this slide itself indicated how the antimicrobial resistance is developed. So I can ask in between some question, and you also can interact with me in at any moment of time. Okay. So this is the first slide itself. It is indicating that is in the first. So this is actually happening in the environment and in our gut also. So suppose this is the gut, and in that we have all types of organisms. Many of them are the beneficial, and some, like this red color, they are the resistance to some kind of the antimicrobial agent. So what is happening when we feel upset stomach or any diarrheal episodes or something, we are taking the antibiotic. And what is happening, that kills the sensitive pathogen, and in the subsequent your dose, only the resistance and the intermediate organisms remain. So again, when we are taking the tablets, antimicrobial tablets or the medicines, then only the resistant microflora will remain in the gut. So that is the problem is there everywhere in the environment also. So that's why the today's topic, that is the emergence of antimicrobial resistance in foodborne pathogens. So we will speak on that topic, and whatever the queries you have, you can ask me at any moment of time. So millions of years ago, we know that organisms are evolved, and even in 2017, these organisms as old as 4.28 billion years ago, that was isolated from the hydrothermal vent precipitated from the Canada. And you can imagine how much unfavorable conditions might be there that time. Somewhere volcano, somewhere the flood or high temperature, chill. Even then, these organisms are survive. So they have the beautiful characteristic, or we can say a unique characteristic or the genomic constellation. That's why they can sustain in any adverse condition. Slowly we will know that the plant, animals, they have been evolved and then they are survived through the either parasitically or symbiotically. So this fight between the organisms and all the life living things are going on. Even before the discovery of antibiotics, several people has been died because of the infectious diseases that we all know. But once the antibiotic has been developed, it was a boon for the this medical field. But before the discovery of this antibiotic, we used to use some kind of the moldy bread, then the lard, honey, even haldi, adrak. If you go to the old literature, you will find such type of things. These are used by the people for the prevention or for the treatment of the diseases. But in 1908, this Russian zoologist, that is Metnikov and the Paul Ehrlich, they develop a treatment for the syphilis that is called as the silver sun. And in 1928, Alexander Fleming, he discovered accidentally the Penicillium notatum. And later on in 1941, this Howard Florian, this Hans Chain, they discovered the actual component of the penicillin is this Penicillium notatum, that is the penicillin. And because of that, they got the Nobel Prize award. But while receiving the award, Alexander Fleming warned about the misuse of the antibiotic and its effect on the human. So we all know the antibiotic, actually this is the substances which are produced by the microorganism, and antimicrobials means the substances which are natural, semi-synthetic or the synthetic origin. I won't go in the detail about this classification and all that thing because our main topic is the antimicrobial resistance. But just to have the highlight or the superficial the things which we have to recollect. That's why I'm going. So this is the classification we all know. This is the penicillin, cephalosporin, fluoroquinolone, aminoglycosides. In penicillin, we know the penicillin. Then the penicillin has resistance antibiotic developed. That is the methicillin, oxacillin, and then the ampicillin, all that thing. And then the in the cephalosporin, first generation cephalosporin like the cephalothene, cefazolin, and cephalexin. In the second generation, that is the cefotetan, and then the third generation, that is the ceftriaxone, and finally the fourth generation, that is the cefepime. So these are the development occur in the development of this antibiotic years together. And then beside these two classes, there is a fluoroquinolone like the ciprofloxacin, levofloxacin. These are most commonly used in the human practices, particularly in India. Even the aminoglycosides like the gentamicin, that is also we are commonly used it. Then the amikacin in human sector, this is also commonly used it. Beside this, there is another group that is the monobactam, astronome, carbapenem. These are the new drugs which are recently discovered, and it has the high, we can say, uh, wider antibacterial activity. And beside this, the macrolides like the azithromycin, for the throat infection, we used to take the azithromycin or the erythromycin. Even sometimes clindamycin, these are commonly used. And beside this, there is a vancomycin, tetracycline group, trimethoprim group. These are also commonly used. But overall, if you see these carbapenems, these, then the clindamycin. Beside this, we can say some of the methicillin, cefepime. These are the life-saving drugs which should be used only in the critical cases. But the cases are not happening in the actual in the field, and that's why the emergence of the many of the diseases took place. So if we see the mechanism of this antibiotic, how they act, so the some antibiotic like the penicillin group or the beta-lactam group, they are acts on the cell wall. They destroy the linking between the NAM and NAM. That's why the cell wall synthesis could not be take place, and that's why the bacteria get died. Second mechanism is the protein synthesis inhibitor. That is some antibiotic. They act on the bacteria in such a way that the bacteria cannot produce the protein. So where they act on the 30S ribosomal unit and they inhibit it. That is the aminoglycosides or tetracycline. Then another group like the macrolides chloramphenicol, they act on the 50S subunit. Besides this fluoroquinolone and metronidazole, this group, they are generally acting on the DNA synthesis mechanism while the rifampicin on the RNA synthesis mechanism. We all know about the isoniazide that is commonly used for the TB treatment. So they act on the mycolic acid synthesis, and then the sulfonamide and trimethoprim for the folic acid synthesis. So these are the basic mechanism, and that is the way that these things has been captured by the organisms and they are developing the antibiotic resistance. We will see slowly. So, which are the organisms or the antibiotic which inhibit the cell wall synthesis in these organisms? For example, the this penicillin, this antibiotic, okay, they are using for the inhibit the cell wall synthesis of the Streptococcus pyogenes, Clostridium perfringens, Streptococcus agalactiae. Then the aminopenicillin that is commonly used for the Escherichia coli and Enterobacter faecalis. Similarly, this penicillin is resistance penicillin, that is the methicillin, oxacillin, cloxacillin, all these used for the Staphylococcus aureus, particularly the penicillin is producing and all that thing. I won't go in the detail because our topic is very lengthy. So in case of cephalosporin, the first generation cephalosporin like the cefazolin, cefalexin, second generation that is the cefoxitin, cefuroxime, then the third generation that is the ceftriaxone, cefotoxime, ceftazidime, and the fourth generation that is the cefepime. All this can be used for the gram positive and gram negative organisms. Basically, the Enterococci family, Pseudomonas family, as well as the your Staphylococcus family. But vancomycin or the beta-lactamase or the carbapenem, they are mostly used for the gram-positive organism, particularly the Staphylococcus organism. Besides this, astronome and polymyxin, bacitracin, they can be used for the other types of organisms. So besides this, aminoglycoside, tetracycline, this is most commonly used in the veterinary practices. That is for the gram-negative organism. Even gentamicin, that is also we are commonly used. Then the macrolides, chloramphenicol, lincosamide, linezolid, these are commonly used for the different types of organisms by inhibiting the protein synthesis. Then the DNA synthesis, that is the cephalosporin, they act on the DNA synthesis. And then the RNA synthesis, that is the rifampicin. Mycolic acid, as I told, that isoniazide, that is for the against TB. And folic acid synthesis, that is the trimethoprim and sulfonamide. Okay. So these are the organisms, foodborne organisms against which we are using this type of organism. For example, Escherichia coli. For Escherichia coli, we are using sulfonamide, fluoroquinolone, then the third generation and fourth generation cephalosporin, polymyxin. For the Klebsiella pneumoniae, we are using this third generation cephalosporin, fourth generation, and all that thing. Then the Acinetobacter, tetracycline, carbapenem. In Staphylococcus, mostly beta-lactams we are commonly used. Even for the Streptococcus pneumonia or the Streptococcus family also, we can use the penicillin producing this beta-lactam group of antibiotic as well as the third and fourth generation Staphylococcus. So this way, these are the foodborne organisms, and because of using this antibiotic, there is a development of the antimicrobial resistance. So if we look at the antibiotic consumption between 2000 to 2010, almost 36% increase in particularly the BRICS countries, and 23% increase in the retail sale of only in the India. So you can imagine so how the antibiotic consumption is increasing all over the world. That is, it was around 63,000 tons in 2010, and it was increased. It will increase to 1 lakh ton in 2030. This is the projection, and it is expected that the consumption of antibiotic will be the double. So why we are using this antibiotic? We are using not only for the treatment of the diseases, not only in the animals, or the poultry or the fishery, but these are commonly used for the as a growth promoter. Most of the European countries, they are blaming us that we are extensively used in the for the animal treatment, but to the best of my knowledge, we are not using extensively in the animal treatment. Yes, yes, there are some references they are saying in the poultry industry we are using the antimicrobial agents, but as far as my knowledge is going, for the backyard poultry as well as for the this one livestock, we are not using the antibiotic as a growth promoter. So this is the one report which is saying the expected projection that the antibiotic we will going to consume. That is, if you see, India is on the 5th rank, and China, which is the leading consumer of the antibiotic, they are taking it. They will take the double of the antibiotic by the 2030. Similarly, the case with the India also, we are going to take the consume the antibiotic almost double the quantity what we use in the 2010. So this is about the mechanism of actual the antibiotic which showing the mode of action, and when these are antibiotic are not useful, that is called as the antimicrobial resistance. So it is the ability of the microorganism to develop some kind of mechanism so that they are not able to kill by that particular antibiotic. So earlier they were inhibited or the killed by that particular antibiotic, but later on they are developing some kind of mechanism, or they are acquiring this kind of resistance mechanism from the other bacteria, like through the transposon or the sex pili, this or the plasmid transmission. So these are commonly transferred from one bacteria to the other bacteria. So these are the mechanism by which this is transferred. So presently, if you see, almost 7 lakhs deaths has been reported all over the world. And if we see by 2050, it is estimated that 300 million premature deaths can be reported, and it will cost around US $100 trillion. So this is the reports of the antimicrobial resistance when it has been happened. So here, if we see the penicillin, the drug was discovered in the 1943. Actually, it was discovered in 1928, but the component which was discovered later on in 1943. But before the discovery itself, the resistance mechanism has been already discovered in 1940. That is for the Staphylococcus organism. And slowly, the penicillin is inhibiting the antibiotic has been discovered. Like for example, the methicillin. So this methicillin has discovered in 1960, but immediately within 2 hours, 2 years, this methicillin found to be resistant to the Staphylococcus. Similarly, later on in 2001, linezolid developed. In 2011, ceftaroline has been developed, but these antibiotics also becoming resistant to the Staphylococcus. In 1950, this tetracycline group of antibiotic has been developed, but within a span of 9 years, this Shigella organism showed the resistance against this tetracycline. Similarly, for the erythromycin streptococcus, then for gentamicin enterococcus, so many organisms they are developing the resistance to one or other kind of antibiotic within a span of 2 to 10 years. So you can imagine how these organisms they are developing the resistance. If we look at the actual factors which are responsible for the antibiotic resistance in India, it is not only the antibiotic use. This is the my perception. That is the antibiotic use. In other hand, okay, that is also one of the trigger for the development of the resistance. But besides this, the inappropriate prescription, or the we can say the antibiotics are available without the prescription, that also hampers or that adds some kind of pressure on this bacteria to develop the antimicrobial resistance. Even in some cases, if we can see the multiple antibiotics are using. For example, if a patient going to the hospital and in doctors has prescribed gentamicin, and if it is not working, then they are giving the simultaneously the norfloxacin, ciprofloxacin. So they are using the combination of this antibiotic. That also affects the actual this that puts the selection pressure on this microorganism. Besides this, the inadequate dose. This is a very common practice. Even after learning all that thing, even then also we are not taking the adequate dose. What it means? What it means? The inadequate dose means what? Doctor is prescribing for the 5 days, but when we are feeling comfortable within 2 days, we are skipping the antibiotic. Or we can take the excess dose. Sometimes we are taking the half dose morning, evening full dose, then again next day that type of dose. So all these factors also affect they are putting some kind of selection pressure on the bacteria, whatever the present inside that particular patient. Then the inappropriate use. This is also some of the very important aspects. If we see in common cold, or we can say the throat infection, simple pharyngitis, there is a no need. In a common cold or indigestion, there is a no need of the antibiotic. Okay, why it is not needed? Because it is the some kind of the viral infection. For example, the flu, common flu, that is caused by the this influenza viruses. In that case, these antibiotics are not needed, but only to avoid any adverse effect, the people are prescribing these antibiotics. Then the poor quality of antibiotic. Even if we see some industries, they are not following the perfect standards, and that's why the component, the basic raw material what is used for the preparation of the pharmaceutical, that is not appropriate. Then the inadequate lab facilities for checking the antibiotic sensitivity or for the isolation of the organism. Then beside this indirect cost, like factors like the bad habits of spitting, coughing anywhere. We have in India we can spit anywhere, and even we can send the drainage system in the very good water bodies like the lakes, these whales, and we can say the rivers, and that also causes some kind of the transmission of this antimicrobial resistance pathogens from one place to the other place. So these are so many causes or the factors responsible for the antimicrobial resistance. Now, how these organisms are developed the resistance? Now, I told the example of the beta-lactam. Okay, when they are trying to enter into the bacterial cell. These bacteria, they are very clever. They are producing some kind of the enzyme, that is the beta-lactamase, which destroy the beta-lactam ring, and that's why this antibiotic outside itself, it is of non-usable, or we can say it because of the changes in the structure, it cannot produce the effect on the cell wall. So that is one mechanism. Second mechanism, they change this foreign channel. So from where this antibiotic is entering, they are changing that channel, and because of that, these antibiotic cannot be enter inside the cell, that bacterial cell. Third mechanism, the target alteration. Suppose this antibiotic that was to work on the, for example, rifampicin, they are working on the RNA. So they are modifying the RNA structure by simply one or two nucleotide changes, and that's why these antibiotics, they cannot recognize the RNA. So this is one also some kind of the recognition mechanism they are changing, and that's why this antibiotic cannot be act on that particular organism. Second way, that they are changing the protein structure, and that's why inside the cell. That's why these antibiotic coming inside, but they are not getting the target sites where it is. They are not identified, and that's why they are just moving here and there, but they cannot attack on this one. And next mechanism, that is the efflux pump. Suppose one antibiotic is coming inside, and they have the mechanism to throw it out through this efflux pump mechanism. So these are the basic mechanism these organisms are trying to develop and they are following this resistance mechanism. Just a minute. Okay. So what are these enzymes? Just now I told okay, outside the cell wall, they are secreting some kind of enzyme. So this is the first enzyme, that is the penicillinase. So this penicillinase enzyme, they hydrolyze the beta-lactam rings, and that's why this is not antibiotic cannot be useful. And that's why later the penicillin resistance beta-lactam was discovered. That is the methicillin. That is specially for the pus forming Staphylococcus aureus. But within a 2 years of span, this Staphylococcus aureus has been developed this resistor to the methicillin. And nowadays, this methicillin resistant Staphylococcus aureus, it is a very huge problematic cases which are commonly reported in the burning, we can say the wards. We can observe this type of cases in the particularly the wound infection. So there is a very difficult to treat these cases. Even if the patient is diabetic and if that patient has a small, we can say the uh, abscess, and if that abscess, which is because of the methicillin resistance, even then it is very difficult to treat that case. So you just imagine if the simple diabetes is there and methicillin resistant staphylococcus aureus is there, it is very difficult to treat that cases. We have to use the vancomycin, clindamycin, and sometimes these organisms develop resistance to against to that, and that's why the patients patient cannot be we cannot save the life of that patient. That is the very we can say emerging type of the resistance mechanism has been developed by the various type of organisms. Second is the ESBL. We are commonly heard about the ESBL. What is meant by the ESBL? That is the extended spectrum beta-lactamases. Actually, these are the hydrolyzed the extended spectrum cephalosporin with an oxyimmunoside chain. That is, for example, it includes the ceftriaxone, then the cefotaxime, then the ceftazidime, and the oxyimmunomonobactam, astronome. Then they are blocked by the inhibitor like the clavulanic acid, sulbactam, tazobactam. But they does not include the cephalosporin like the cefamycin. In short, if we are using the cefotaxime for treating the case of the ESBL, we cannot save the patient. But if we use the cefotaxime along with clavulanic acid, it will work. It will inhibit the that organism. So this is the called as the extended spectrum beta-lactamases. That means they are blocked by the clavulanic acid, sulbactam, and tazobactam. Okay, but there is some carbapinimase enzyme. They cannot be blocked by the inhibitor. So that is the difference between the ESBL and carbapinimase. So keep it in mind. So what is meant by the ESBL, carbapinimase, ANSI? There is a lot of confusion. If you go deep by deep, it is a lot of confusion. So that's why I'm trying to solve your confusion. So this is ESBL means they are resistance against the ceftriaxone, cefotaxime, ceftazidime, and oxymonobactam, astronome, but they are inhibited by the clavulanic and sulbactam. But they are not affected by the cefamycin. So that is also one, cefamycin, cefoxetine, and cefotaxime. That's why the AMC group has been developed. That is, they are resistant to the cefoxetine and cefotaxime. Then what are the common type of these beta-lactamases? So TEM3, TEM4, and SHV. These are the variant of these beta-lactamases. That means the enzyme is same, but only one or two amino acids they has been replaced by the some kind of the other amino acid. That's why the function remains same, but the structure remains different. That's why these variants are different. So there are more than 1,000 variants of these beta-lactamases. So you can imagine how much these organisms are clever. So they does not hamper the function, but they try to change themselves and they produce the some kinds of changing in the amino acid sequence. So TEM3, TEM4, and SHV1, these are the common beta-lactamase, and there is the alteration in the amino acid configuration lead to TEM1, TEM2, TEM15, TEM16, so many. So as I told, ESBL, they are resistant to the variety of beta-lactam antibiotic, including penicillin, second, third, and fourth generation cephalosporin, but usually not to the carbapenem and cefamycin, and inhibited by the clavulanic, tazobactam, and sulbactam. And it is commonly found in the Enterobacteriaceae family, Pseudomonas family, and these are the some of the organisms. So there is a two-way classification for this ESBL, that is the Amler and Bush-Jacobi. I won't go in the detail, but it is the serine beta-lactamase and metallo-beta-lactamases. That is the structure of these beta-lactamases, and in that these are the variants of the beta-lactamases. That is the TEM1, TEM2, TEM3, SHV1, 3, 4, so many, and OXA. So these OXA 48, OXA 23, these are the emerging types. CMY, these are the emerging antimicrobial resistance mechanism. They have been developed against the carbapenem antibiotic. So by the producing the carbapenemase enzyme. So this carbapenemase means the serine beta-lactamase. Okay, and metallo-beta-lactamases, that is the group class B. That is the VIM and IMP base. That is the genes, which is the structure is similar to the metallo. So that's why the metallo-beta-lactamase. So this is also the emerging antimicrobial resistance has been discovered in many of the antimicrobial resistors. So this is the same, the other way of classification. I won't go into this one. So coming to the TEM. So this TEM1, which is commonly found in the E. coli or Klebsiella pneumoniae, which is, that means the 90% ampicillin resistant in E. coli, that is mainly due to the TEM1. But it is not mean that always you will get the TEM1. Even if you, in the sensitivity or the diffusion assay, you get this ampicillin resistance, it does not mean you will get the TEM1. There may be the vary. So several ESBL pathogen has been developed because of the single amino acid substitution. At what places? 104, 168, 238, and 24. So there are more than 200 these TEM varieties. SHV, that is the sulfhydryl variable. That means they have the 68% amino acid sequence with the TEM1, but there is a more than 32% variation. That's why it is class in other beta-lactam, that is the SHV group. So this is mainly the plasmid oriented. Okay, but there are some of them are the this one. We can say the cell plasmid and what is called a chromosomal oriented. Okay. So second is the CTXM. That CTXM means what? Cefotaxime. So these lactamases, they are active against the cefotaxime. That's why the name CTXMB. Okay. So they are resistant against the ceftazidime, ceftriaxone, and cefepime. So CTXM is almost 40% identical with these two, but they are commonly found in the Cluvaria species, and more than 80 varieties are there. Now CTXM15, that is actually prevalent in the UK, but now it is widely reported from other countries also. Why? Because this is the fast spreading emerging strain, and this is commonly found in the urinary tract infection. Even in India, now we are getting some kinds of this CTXM15. So these are the TEM, SHV, and CTXM type. Then coming to the oxa beta-lactamase. So what is meant by the oxa? That we have seen serine beta-lactamase. So these beta-lactamases which hydrolyzes the oxacillin and cloxacillin. So they confirm the resistance against the ampicillin and cefalothin, but they are poorly inhibited by the clavulanic acid, and they are mostly found in the Pseudomonas, E. coli, and Klebsiella. They have only 20% sequence homology with the TEM, SHV, and other CTXM type. But besides this, some other beta-lactamases, that is the PER, VB, GS, IBS, these are mostly found in the Pseudomonas aeruginosa, and these are the emerging one, particularly in India. We have not reported many of these because we have not worked on this foodborne organism. Very limited work on this organism, and that's why we don't know whether these are circulating in India or not. Then AMC, what is meant by the AMC? Actually, they hydrolyze the broad and extended spectrum cephalosporin, including staphylococcus and oxyimmuno beta-lactam, but not inhibited by the clavulanic acid. So what is the which one is the inhibited by the clavulanic acid? That is the carbapenem. That's why carbapenem antibiotic is very important. If we are using carbapenem, it should be used only in the very highly critical cases. Otherwise, what is happening? Carbapenem resistant strains are coming up. Once these strains circulated in the community, then it will be havoc. It will be havoc because it will. We don't have the antibiotic because the antibiotics has not been discovered since last 30 years. We don't have the options, and the cases will be died like anything. So for saving the patients, we need to use this carbapenem type of antibiotic, colistin type of antibiotic, or clindamycin type of antibiotic very cautiously, very cautiously. So this is the carbapenem that is active against the oxyimmuno beta-lactamase, cephalosporin, cefamycin, and carbapenem. Aztreonam is stable to metallo-beta-lactamase, but many IMP and VIM producers are resistant. IMP means what? Imipenem. Okay, and VIM means what? Verona integron. We will see. Okay, so carbapenems are categorized into three classes. That is class A, which includes KPC, SME, IME. Class B, NDM, VIM, IMP, and class D, that is the OXA 40. So IMP type, that is the active against the imipenem. So currently we can see the 19 variants are circulating, and it is first established from the Pseudomonas and Acinetobacter. Yes, this Acinetobacter, that is also a nuisance. That is also making a nuisance in the Indian medical field. This VIM, Verona integron encoded metallo-beta-lactamase. So this is first reported in Italy in 1999, and now it includes the 10 members. And VIM1 discovered in Italy in 1999, and now it is circulating and it is found. It is slowly reporting from other parts of the world. Okay, now coming to the OXA, they hydrolyze the carbapenems very slowly, but commonly found in the Acinetobacter. That's why this Acinetobacter with this OXA, they are highly resistant. It is very difficult to treat the Acinetobacter. The other pathogen, which is of the foodborne origin, that is the Pseudomonas. This is also very dangerous pathogen because the Pseudomonas also carrying lot of antimicrobial mechanism, and that's why many of the hospital acquired infection because of the Pseudomonas, it is very difficult to treat it. Then coming to this KPC name itself, Klebsiella pneumoniae, KP, carbapenem, KPC. So that is found in the North Carolina, that is first reported. KPC2 in the Baltimore, KPC3 in New York. We don't know how many KPCs we have. So we have to work on the foodborne pathogen, then only we will come to know. We have to work on the clinical pathogens, then only we will come to know. Then CMY type, that is described from the Enterobacter aeruginosa. Then SME, Serratia marcinus enzyme, imipenem hydrolyzing enzyme, NMC. So many types of these antimicrobial resistance mechanism has been developed and emerging in foodborne pathogens. So NDM1, we know because this is originated from our country, that's why we know. This is originated in 2009 from the New Delhi. So this New Delhi, that is also the metallo-beta-lactamase, very difficult to treat. That is widespread in the E. coli and Klebsiella pneumoniae isolates nowadays, particularly from the India and Pakistan. But now this NDM, now this is also reporting from the other parts of the world. So it is very difficult to keep it in mind which type of strains we have and which type of strains are circulating all over the world. So these are the mechanism of resistance, like the beta-lactam, that is by the enzymatic destruction at the outside, and more than thousands enzyme, and this is commonly found in the Staphylococcus, Enterobacter, Cephalosporin. So this is the alter target, decrease uptake. These type of mechanisms commonly found against this beta-lactam antibiotic. So these are the some same things have updated here. So this is the E. coli. We all know E. coli is the common pathogen, and almost 1 lakh organisms can be reported per gram of the feces. And there are several types, particularly 6 types, that's the STC, TC, APAC, and so on. And these are mainly transmitted from the food and water, and this is considered as the indicator of the fecal contamination. So if we look at the CDDP report in 2015, these aminoglycosides and these carbapenem, they are active against this E. coli. So most of the strains were sensitive, but now we don't know presently what is the situation. It is there. Nowadays this one report that they're saying that this against the MDR there is a ESBL is mainly because of the blast CTXM families, that is the blast CTXM 15. But now this carbapenem resistance, the carbapenem oxa 48, BLA, NDM and BIMG, they are also reported commonly, and they are mediated by various genes. And this ST131 clone. So these are the clones. Actually, these clones, they are carrying most of the antimicrobial genes in one clone, and that's why these clones, identification of clone, these are the getting popularity nowadays, because once we know the clone, we could identify what kind of resistance mechanism it is there. Now this ST131 clone, this is highly circulated all over the world. So that's why this is called as the global clone, global MDR clone. But beside this is the Raghupati et al. This is the Indian report. If we see this ST410, this is the emerging clade which is found from the India. And genotype is Blastitexum 15, NDM 5 were common among these cephalosporinase and carbapenemase, and which are commonly found in this MDR clade. So in which serotypes it is appearing? So it is commonly found in O102, H6, O89, H7, H9, O8, H9, and O89, H5. So this is the ST410. This is the fast spreading high risk clone, particularly from India. So when this is analyzed further, there is a found that these two plasmids, that is the INC-XC and INC-F, on this plasmid, this clone is there, and they are resistant to the aminoglycoside, beta-lactam, fluoroquinolone, chloramphenicol, sulfonamide, trimethoprim, macrolide, tetracycline. So you can imagine this plasmid, how much dangerous this plasmid. This is carrying antimicrobial resistance mechanism to all antibiotics, which consists of oxa also, cat, UNR, CMY. So very novel and emerging these antimicrobial resistance genes. So in addition, the chromosomal mutation, they are also responsible for the transfer of this genetic characteristic. So analysis of this plasmid finder reveal the presence of this replicon. Okay, and moreover, the virulent genes, they make this type of organisms are very pathogenic and highly dangerous organisms. So that's why even the simple UTI infection is there. You need to characterize that pathogen if it is not responding to the treatment. Then this another clones like ST189 that is reported from the chicken, guinea pig. So there are the reports of these novel clones from the emerging clones from the animals also, from the chicken, pigs, beside the human isolate, and these human isolate, they have the sequence similarity with the human animal isolate. They are carrying some types of the basic same clades or the same clones, and that's why they are very important. If we see this report here, you can see in children, these are the genes, antimicrobial resistant genes. These are common between all the three. That is the children, pet, and livestock. Only some of the antimicrobial resistant genes, they are peculiar for the children, they are peculiar for the pets, or they are specific for the livestock. But most of the antimicrobial resistant genes, as well as the replicon, they are common among the three, even with their environment. So you can see the One Health concept, how much it is important if we have to combat the antimicrobial resistance. So these are some of the reports from the India that the foodborne pathogens has been reported from all over the parts of India, including the antimicrobial resistance. Klebsiella pneumoniae, the other pathogen that is also very dangerous pathogen, It is called as the bug because it is carrying a lot of antimicrobial resistance mechanism, particularly in the intensive care units of the hospital. So this CDTEP report says this glycycycline and polymyxin, they were effective antimicrobials against this pathogen. But now what is the situation, we don't know. Now this Klebsiella, it is being the significant, we can say it is one of the important pathogens because most of the antimicrobial resistant genes has been discovered first in the Klebsiella. For example, the NDM1 KPC oxa, they are first discovered in this. So emergent diversity and higher plasmid burden is among the Klebsiella pneumoniae. Then resistance to the other antimicrobial is due to the acquisition of the AMR gene via horizontal gene transfer. In the starting of my lecture, I told this SHV10 CMY, they are first discovered in the this Klebsiella pneumoniae. So this is most widely dispersed ESBL gene is the CTXM gene, which is commonly found in the E. coli. So, so these are some of the reports like the NDM1, MCR1. They are reported from MCR, that is the colistin resistor. That is reported first from the China, from the E. coli and Klebsiella pneumoniae isolate. But now this is also this MCR gene, which is reported from the Belgium, and slowly it is reporting from the other countries. So they are making also a very problematic colistin resistance isolate, particularly the E. coli and Klebsiella. So these are some of the clones which are reported from the animals as well as the humans also. Okay, this is about the Klebsiella pneumoniae. So I'm not going in detail about because this is very confusing. It is not easy to understand. So these are some of the reports of the clones or the plasmids which are circulating all over the world as well as in the India, and this is the report from the Italy, and these are some of the clones like ST303, and these are the INC X3 plasmid which is also reported from the E. coli. So these mechanisms are transferred between the organisms themselves also. In between organisms, that is from E. coli to Klebsiella or Klebsiella to Acinetobacter, that is also common in between these. These are some of the reports and some of the reports from the India. So colistin resistance, if we see in India, the highest carbapenem resistance was observed in the Acinetobacter followed by the Klebsiella pneumoniae, and colistin resistance has been emerged in India. So these are some of the reports they are saying that is since 2016 we are reporting the colistin resistance. Even dual carbapenem and colistin resistance has been reported, and it causes around 69.3% mortality as per the CORETA. But we don't have reported the MCR and MCR2 genes so far from the India. Why, we don't know. So that is the things we have to identify. Okay, even this chicken meat sample contaminated with the Salmonella species, they are found to be multiple drug resistant. And these MCR gene producing bacteria confer the colistin resistant gene has been not reported so far from the chicken. But yes, NDM1 was reported from the meat sample by the veterinary. Okay, so NDM, all that these are also we are reporting. Now recently we have reported the NDM1 from the piglet. Okay, that is from the workers as well as from the chicken. So these are the various types of the genes and reported. This is our report, that is the Shiva Kumar and the Vinod Kumar. We have reported the MEK and so many genes from the Staphylococcus and so many antimicrobial resistance genes from the E. coli. So Staphylococcus aureus, it is also very dangerous pathogen, but particularly the MRS strain, they are very dangerous because there is only choices of the clindamycin and the vancomycin, and if we are not able to treat by these organisms, the life of the patient is very problematic. So the beta-lactam is a structural gene, that is the blast jade, which is commonly reported from the Staphylococcus, which is carried by the transposome, and these elements are easily transferred from the one bacteria to the other bacteria. So besides this, the oxacillin resistor. So penicillin binding protein 2, there is a changes in this site, and that's why there is a attachment of this methicillin or oxacillin can be hampered. So this type of the some kind of the resistant mechanism has been reported. So make A, make C, this type of the genes has been reported against the methicillin resistance. So this is all about the some types of these genes and the ST22, ST772. These are reported from the India, and these are the emerging ST36, ST30. These are the emerging strains which are reported from all over the India also. Vancomycin resistant strains also reporting, but though they are very less, methicillin resistant strains are very less, clindamycin resistant strains are very less. But we have to work and we have to combat these strains. I won't go in these things because so much about this one. But only thing, these are some of our references. We can go through this literature to get more information about the antimicrobial resistance, their mechanism of resistance. So I would like to conclude my this topic, that is the microorganism develop several kinds of mechanism and transfer these resistance mechanism to the mobile genetic element like plasmid, transposome, and the horizontal gene transfer. Several beta-lactam enzymes encoded by the TAME, SHV, and OXA type and the carbapenemase, these are the genes has been developed by the pathogen, and this process developing new enzymes will be continued. So E. coli ST131, as I told, this is the global MDR strain. But beside this, some emerging strains are has been reporting nowadays. Klebsiella pneumoniae is the species within which several emergence has been discovered first time, and the pandemic hospital outbreak clone, that is the Klebsiella pneumoniae, that is also we have to look for this one because this is very dangerous. First epidemic MRSA clone, this is with a single locus variant, that is also emerging pathogen it is coming. So reports of NDM, LAOSA, they are coming from the India. So fight between the organisms and living system will be continued. So we have to work on the factors responsible for the AMR, and we have to find out the alternative by joining hands with the environmentalists and the even IITian, even medicos, veterinarians, and policymakers by adopting the One Health approach. Then only we can combat this actual AMR. So I think you might have understand the topic. So with this, thank you very much. Thanks a lot to the organizers and each and everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, uh, for very excellent presentations, and you have completed your presentation in time. Very specific, very informative, and all the aspects of AMR in your presentation you have covered, sir. Uh, Starting from the history, and then in your topic, that is emergence of antimicrobial resistance in all the foodborne pathogens, you have presented on antibiotics versus antimicrobials, then classification of antibiotics, antibiotic consumptions, and then you have mentioned the what are the factors responsible for antibiotic resistance in India, then what are the different antibiotic resistance mechanisms, then MDR, E. coli, and then dissemination of AMRs in domestic animals, and then how to combat all these and prevent and control the AMR. That very informative lecture you have presented, sir. Thank you very much. Now, 2, 3 questions from the participants, please.
Yes, please. One chart is there.
Yes, sir. One question is there in chat box. It is mentioned that does the incidence of antimicrobial resistance exists in case of indigenous drugs
Indigenous
like
drugs.
turmeric?
Means antimicrobial resistant to the turmeric.
Yes.
Yes, of course. There are several reports that are suggesting the antimicrobial resistance against the herbal drugs, including even haldi or whatever it is there. So that is there. There are reports. Anything?
I think no questions. It indicates that, sir, ki all your miss the whatever the material is there, your presentation understood to all the participants. Once again, thank you very much, sir. As everybody knows that Dr. Junjar Dubal, sir, is having the well experienced because he has worked many years for this AMR, and I know that sir is my senior at here in Mumbai Veterinary College. He is a very good human being. He is very down to earth personality. Always he also keeps smiling and keeps smiling the others, and that's why it is very important nowadays to remain healthy. So once again, I thank you very much, sir, for your valuable time, and you have prepared this very nice presentation for us. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Vilas, and thanks to all organizers, you, madam, as well as Jende sir, for providing me opportunity. Thank you, thanks everyone. Thank you very much. So I am stop sharing. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, yes.
Malik sir, namaskar.
Namaskar, Dr. Dubal.
Another speaker, uh, Dr. Satyavir Singh Malik, sir. Sir is just last month, in the month of August, sir has retired as a head of the department, a principal scientist and head of the department division of veterinary public health, and also the scientific secretary to the director ICR IVRI Ijat Nagar Bareilly. And sir is going to present his topic on relevance of One Health approach to
नाही
concept.
मी जर सांगितलं माझं ऐकलं ना त्या टाईप मध्ये आपलं सांगायचं नाही होत गॅस्ट्रो मध्ये मरतात
Please,
कुत्रे मग
I
त्यांना काय
request to all the participants, please be muted. So before start, I request to the sir, just I will read a brief introduction about Dr. SVS Malik, sir. So Dr. Satyavir Singh Malik, sir has completed his BVS and age with honors, MUSC in veterinary hygiene and public health, PhD in livestock products technology, and served as a head of the department and principal scientist uh, in the division of veterinary public health at ICR IVRI. Sir, born on August 1960 at Jahangirabad, Bulandshahr, Uttar Pradesh in India. Dr. Malik sir steered the division of veterinary public health as its officiating head in 3 spells at deemed university IVRI Ijatnagar for 11 years and 8 months. Besides serving as scientific secretary to director for 12 years and 1 month. Sir also worked as a hostel warden for 11 years and chairman of Welcome and Farewell Committee, Staff Welfare Club of IVRI for about 14 years since 2008, and also worked as a member SWC IVRI Organizing Committee since 2007. During his 34 years of committed research, teaching and extension career at Veterinary Public Health Division of IVRI, Dr. Malik remained engaged in research on masked and emerging zoonotic and foodborne pathogens associated with reproductive disorders in human beings and animals, with focus on development of rapid, reliable, and preferably on-site indigenous diagnostics for listeriosis, toxoplasmosis, coccidiosis, EAEC, and chlamydial infections in man and animals. Dr. Malik sir has successfully handled 11 institute and DBT funded research projects as 11 in PI and 10 in OPI, and developed ICR sponsored outreach program on zoonotic diseases in India. He has to his credit about 118 published papers, in that 79 international and 39 national research articles, including 62 international research articles, 8 reviews, 9 data sheets in CAB International, as well as 33 national research articles, 4 reviews, and 2 compendia of winter schools and training programs. He also contributed 16 book chapters, in that international 3 and national 13, 58 gene bank sequences of zoonotic pathogens, besides 4 extension bulletins, pamphlets, 13 folders, 12 popular articles in Hindi for creating mass awareness about zoonotic diseases. He delivered 106 lead and invited lectures, 3 TV talks, and 6 radio talks on various topics, and made 79 scientific presentations. Dr. Malik sir has guided 27 PG students, in that 14 PhD students and 13 MUSC as major advisor, and mentored a total of 48 PG students, in that 23 PhD, 25 MUSC in the core domain of his research. He designed 5 new courses and restructured 4 courses. He also developed several comprehensive digital capsules on zoonosis for teaching and training, 2 compendia for training programs, 4 units of chapters for online diploma courses. On a proactive note, Dr. Malik sir organized FAO WHO sponsored training in AMR 1, national workshops, short-term training 6, and winter schools 1 in frontal areas of veterinary public health. He also served as associate editor and editor in 1996 to up to 2010 of Indian Journal of Comparative Microbiology, Immunology, and Infectious Diseases, and worked as a reviewer for many peer-reviewed international journals. He has been a life member of National Association for Welfare of Animal and Research, that is NAVAR, since its inception from in 2002. Indian Society of Veterinary Medicine since 2002, and Indian Association of Veterinary Public Health Specialists, that is IAVPHS, since its inception in 2003. He also served as treasurer, Dr. C.M. Singh Endowment Trust, Bareilly, for 14 years since 2008. Dr. Malik sir earned over 60 awards and recognitions, including prestigious FAO WHO Fellowship in the year 1999 at the University of Liverpool, United Kingdom, Best Teacher Award of IVRI 2000-2001, and Bharat Ratna Dr. Subramaniam ICR National Award for Outstanding Teachers in Animal and Fisheries Sciences in the year 2011. He served as member Scientific Committee, International Society for Problems on Listeriosis in ISOPOL, meet 2013, besides representing as expert member Standing Committee on Zoonosis, ICMR, for 11 years, and member expert member expert group DASD and F, Government of India. He has been serving as the vice president Society for Research on Listeria in India since its inception, in that is from 14th September 2012. His H index is 26 and I-10 index is 49, with 2,422 citations. So I got an opportunity to work under him as a PhD student. He is my guide, he is my mentor, advisor. uh, uh, Under his guidance, I worked on the Coxella burnata. You know that it's an indicator organism for pasteurization. also as a bioterrorism agent. He is a very good, he is my philosopher and as a dynamic person. And with these few words, it's our honor to request respected Dr. Satyaveer Singh Malik sir for his presentation. Malik sir, please.
Thank you, Dr. Vilas, for reading out my elaborate biodata, which I requested you to not read in detail, because all the contributions that has come is because of you people who have enriched my life and working in many ways. I am so, on a humble note, grateful to the God Almighty for sending wonderful people in my life, so that whatever little contributions I could make in my scientific arena, on a benevolent note, credit I give to all of you. So before I start my presentation, I thank esteemed Vice Chancellor MAPSU, Dr. Paturkar sir, my esteemed colleagues, Dr. Ranade and Dr. Chende, and all the wonderful dynamic team of the co-organizers, including Dr. Vilas, for having given me this opportunity to share my views on this very important aspect, which is very, very pertinent, especially in Indian context. So I shall be sharing the presentation. Dr. Vilas, is it visible?
Yes, sir. It's visible, sir. Yes.
Am I audible with
Yes, sir.
clarity?
Very clear. You are audible, sir.
Thank you. Oh, please give me 1 minute to pay my reverence in the lotus feet of God Almighty. Om Shri Guru Sakshat Parbrahma Devadidev Shri Mahadev Namo Namah. Om Shri Shiva Shakti Shri Adi Shakti Namo Namah. Om Shri Pratham Pujya Shri Ganesha Namo Namah. Shri Saraswati Namo Namah. Shri Mata Pitra Bhyam Namo Namah. Shri Guruve Namo Namah. Well, I shall be sharing my views on the relevance of One Health approach to food safety. And this diagram, I hope most of you are familiar with it, what we call as from farm to fork concept. And it has been very rightly said, to eat is a necessity of any living creature, but to eat intelligently is an art. Let us discuss about that part which comes from scientific wisdom and applied in the form of art. If you look at the food safety, it deals with the foodborne infections, foodborne disease outbreaks, antimicrobial resistance, about which Dr. Dubal has just elaborated upon, food safety practices and food allergies. It is a component of larger what we call as food security, which also ensures not only the availability of the food to the people, but also the nutritional value of the food that we take. The global burden of foodborne illness comprises of more than 250 different food hazards, and every year over 600 million cases of foodborne illnesses are reported. In 2010, from eating contaminated food, you will get a glimpse that almost 1 in 10 people fell ill every year. 4,20,000 people died due to foodborne diseases, especially Salmonella E. coli infections, and 1/3 of them are the children who bear the brunt of the disease, especially up to 5 years of age. In 2020, that's why a resolution titled Strengthening Efforts on Food Safety was adopted by 73rd World Health Assembly. And the burden of foodborne disease is substantial. as I have just narrated to you. And so many people, you can see here, 1,75,000 die out of more than 150 million people who fall ill on account of these diseases. And diarrheal diseases are responsible for many deaths. I shall be touching upon just those diseases because I am here to discuss the application of One Health approach to the food safety and not to the foodborne diseases per se. India, especially if we look at, India has not given due attention to the foodborne infection. It has been allegated, especially by the developed world. And yes, we have to go a long way before we say that on a confident note that yes, we are comfortable on food safety front. So many diarrheal diseases, food poisoning, outbreaks, they are reported in India, just reported. And then in a very, I must say, surprising note, these diseases are reported to the police for taking the actions, not to the authorities to take the action. And that's why the foodborne illness cost India whooping $28 million a year. There is a report. And that costs a premium on hygiene. And that hygiene part is grossly lacking in most of the parts, especially Dr. Dubal might have touched upon the street vended foods, which add a great deal to these foodborne illnesses. I would like to quote here the most recent episode that occurred on September 21st, where a major food poisoning case at Telangana Government School was reported, where 31 students in hospital to kill. And a recent study by an NGO, that is Institute of Perception Studies, revealed. Now here it is noteworthy. Who is reporting it? Is an NGO, not a national agency. That 1,100 students in government-run schools suffered food poisoning in 2022. The major question comes here, whether we are taking care of the health of our budding and upcoming generations, or we are subjecting them through these, what we call as the meals served in the foods, to the foodborne illnesses. Lizards, frogs, earthworm, insects were found in the food served to the students. The basic question here is, do we have got a robust national reporting system with regard to disease investigation, lab analysis, data sharing, real-time monitoring and control of foodborne illnesses, including the foodborne infections and intoxications? Developed part not only analyze the data for themselves like CDC, but also for other nations. And we simply cite that data. The major reason for failure of these in terms of control over the foodborne illnesses is the global supply chain complexity. You can see the food comes from various sources, not only from livestock foods, but also from agriculture produce. And in the process, at any step when they get contaminated, you can't stop that illness, what we see as foodborne disease outbreaks. Obviously, the world over, several reports come, be it South Africa, which was hit with the largest ever Listeria outbreak through meat, where case reports were 1,060, mortality 216, and case fatality rate was 20%. Or now it is changing. For example, there is a lemon recall due to potential Listeria contamination. Now, as we all know that Listeria is primarily associated with milk and milk products, especially the cheese. But here, some potatoes, lemons, limes, and oranges have been found contaminated with potential Listeria. And it has ruined the life of many who are infected. So that's why we need to have that approach, which is all encompassing, which is comprehensive. Similarly, I would like to quote here, show you before the outbreak of Salmonella infections linked to onion. And Salmonella, as we know, it is basically through the lizards, the frogs, the rats, and the dirty hands that lead to the outbreaks of Salmonella. And India, hardly you will find any home which has not suffered with the typhoid. But in the developed world, people are successfully handling these foodborne outbreaks because they have got a robust system of monitoring, prevention, and control in place. And that's why, despite involving not only more than 24 states of America, this infection actually spread to other countries also, but they could successfully control it. And you can see the pattern where people got sick. It is all over. And interviews with 6 people they have taken with sick people, and finally they traced back to the source. They stopped the supply, and they have immediately what we call as food recall, gone for that and treated the infected. And that's why with over 47 states that were affected, the hospitalization was limited only to 116. Here, nobody takes pain to report the cases. And the million-dollar question is to whom to report? Outbreak of Salmonella enteritidis, again, infections linked to peaches. Now, this is something, a changing trend because of the fast food that we are in habit of taking. And there we emphasize on fast delivery, but not on the hygiene. So that's the tragedy. Outbreak of Salmonella, again, infections linked to the backyard poultry. And India, what we call as integrated farming system. We, without having the guidelines for what we call as integrated livestock farming, we simply go on advocating the use of that backyard poultry for income generation to the livestock owners and farmers. Now, these are potential source of Salmonella and Campylobacter, as we know, and that's why people keep on picking up these infections because they don't know. So where is the gap? Gap is in the education. Gap is in the policy formation and its implementation. Likewise, several countries have witnessed the huge economic losses on account of BSE, especially the UK, and loss of 2% GDP in East Asia because of SARS and now, of course, COVID, and tough lessons learned from by Dutch on account of Q fever outbreak, which lasted for 4 years. So, is there any pragmatic solution to the foodborne hazards so that we may effectively handle? And there comes a solution in the form of One Health concept. Now I see most of the time people discuss these concepts in detail. But our major problem, this concept is age old and is the essential part of the curriculum of veterinary public health. But the point is this, are we going to implement? And if yes, then what is our strategy? Nature and we share same signatures. If you look at the tree stem and you compare it with the human thumb, we have got so much commonness. So as in the terms of genetic similarity, also in terms of DNA. And that's why we are part and parcel of this great umbrella created by the God Almighty. And that's why we are interdependent, and so is our health. And that's why this concept long back, all that now known as One Health, was conceived by legendary James H. J. Steele, Calvin W. Schabe, and Rudolf Virchow, they all actually advocated this concept as the most pragmatic approach. Now, this concept deals with not only the zoonotic infections, biothreats, global health, antimicrobial resistance, the infections of various origin, be it bacterial, viral, vector-borne, or parasitic. It also suggests the interventions in terms of surveillance, vector control, vaccines, and sanitation, and therapeutics, but also it covers non-infectious diseases, be it metabolic disorders, joint and skeleton disease, cancer, cardiovascular disease, environmental hazards, and human and animal bond. So basically, it covers not only the individual health, but the population health. On one hand, as individual health, and on another hand, as ecosystem health, what we also call as eco health. And that is basically which deals with the biodiversity. And we are the part and parcel of the biodiversity. We, the humans, the animals, and all the flora and fauna in a biological niche. This One Health concept emphasizes on 3 C's. That first, if we are able to shed our ego and we are able to see the beauty, the strength of other stakeholders, then we readily go for communication. We respect the esteem of other professionals also, their knowledge, their strength, and that's why we agree to collaborate. And finally, when we put the plans into place, we coordinate effectively for meaningful and gainful outcome. So One Health for Sustainable Food Systems, this slide, Professor Madan also projected that we must invest in One Health. And I am not touching upon those. Several now studies are coming which are showing the wisdom if we invest in One Health, the gain in terms of money. And if you see on left hand side, we have to keep food safe for healthier environments and people. So here the emphasis is on healthier environments. Unless our environments, our crops, our animals are not healthy, we cannot be. Keep livestock healthy and well cared for to improve animal and human environmental and economic health. So economic health is basically the sum up of animal health, human health, and environmental health. And that is the One Health. So we have to reduce human cases through collaborative approach through all the stakeholder, what we call as multi-sectoral investments or multi-sectoral approach. And that's why this is a famous slide, which most of us are well aware of. But you see the subcomponent. Each one of these components is very, very important. And especially what is most neglected is the environmental health. People pump a huge amount of money in human health and animal health, ignoring the environment health. And unless we take care of this component, which includes so many things, evolutionary medicine, social, public health, urbanization, and ecotoxicology and ecology, we are not going to achieve any success on human health and animal health front. And that's why realizing the need of hygiene, which is the most neglected, has been all through since our independence in India. Our Honorable Prime Minister has attached a special priority to it, to transform India into Nirmal Bharat. And most important is the facilities that you provide in the schools, at every public place, to the food, to the hands, to the water, and through it all comes through enlightened brains. And brains are enlightened through education only. That's why the onus lies on us that how far we are active to educate the people on this important front. Even people were shy of talking about the toilet. We needed several cinemas to persuade the people even to think of this, what to talk of implementing them into practice. But now there is a sea change, and India, in leaps and bounds, has shown progress which world is appreciating. Although at the core of our heart, we are God-loving people. Some call God-fearing, but basically we are God-loving people. But unknowingly, we have polluted our holy rivers. And this is one example which came in 2008, that as an entry in Varanasi city, 6,000 fecal coliform bacteria per 100 ml, which was 120 times more than considered safe. And imagine if you are irrigating your crops and you are drinking this water, what would be the fate of animal health and human health? So reforms in sanitation services has been overdue, and several articles have brought the attention. So 50% of India's population defecates in open. That was the scenario way back in 2014. And if you see, the reported cases are actually less than 38 times of actual cases. But see the dedication of the Indian community who have taken up this on a positive note and created a history. That ensuring sustainability of sanitation services on 150th birthday of Mahatma Gandhi, India celebrated the end of 5-year Swachh Bharat mission, the world's biggest behavior change program to eliminate open defecation. India recommended for having gone for 39% to almost universal toilet coverage in just 5 years. And over 100 million household toilets were constructed by deadline benefiting 500 million people across 6,30,000 villages. But the government acknowledged that more had to be done. See, this is the beautiful picture India wanted to put on its canvas. The most common pathogens which are transmitted through water and foodborne, besides the chemical toxins that we call as residues, the biotoxins in form of endo and exotoxins, and infectious agents primarily of zoonotic nature, these organisms, they are either fecally driven or non-fecally derived. Here are the list: adenohepatitis, norovirus, enteroviruses, Shigella, E. coli, Giardia, Cryptosporidium, and these are non-fecally derived, especially when they come through water or soil. And see their rate of multiplication. 60 minutes, one is transformed into 8, and this goes on. So these common pathogens, they are basically passed in the feces of human and animals and contaminate the environment, the rivers, the food, and the food animals as well. So food and waters, do they serve as a savior or villains in our life, is a question that need to be looked upon with care. So under living conditions, the water supply and sanitation, they are required as a proximal cause of survival and replication of pathogen in environment. But when they contaminate a water source and contamination of the food sources through this kind of filthy practices, the food gets contaminated. If you wash your hands, hands get contaminated, your animals become sick, we become sick. And finally, consumption of this contaminated water and food and contact with infected person who pick up these infections from these kind of sites leads to the incidence of mortality to diarrhea, diarrheal diseases, and morbidity attributable to diarrhea, because they are vulnerable, especially those groups which are of lower age and poor in nutrition. So even by cleaning the hands, we can save the life. The chain of transmission is basically, we have to take care of human excreta and animal excreta, because this goes to non-waterborne sewage, hands, waterborne sewage, latrines. In case of animal excreta, again, these contaminate the water bodies, the crops, the foods, and flies. They directly pick up the pathogens, or through these dirty hands, soil, water, surface water, groundwater, and finally the fish and shellfish, they get contaminated. Food in general get contaminated, drinking water, and so as the fruit and vegetables. Finally, the humans and animals, they fall sick. So we need to educate the people about the poor personal hygiene that they ignore mostly, be it the general people or the people who are working in food processing units. Unheeded predators are everywhere. They spread through currency notes. We touch upon these things very frequently, and probably the highest load we can expect on our hands, and the sources are animals, the vehicles, what we call as, or fomites, like currency notes, trains, buses, everywhere. And most important, sometimes the mobile has been found to carry more bacterial load than the toilet seats. So microbes are everywhere in the food system. So shouldn't we take the food? Or what we should do, that we make our food, our soil, our crops, our entire environment, be it air, water, or soil, completely safe from these pathogens. So we have to take care of aquatic animals, soil environment, plant environment, animals, microbes on food, human environment, microbes in food, animal environment, because wherever there is human, animal, plant, their environment, be it air, soil, or water, gets contaminated. And then they are interlinked. So if we look at the bioecology of the whole health, if the plant is under stress, and that stress comes through various forms, in various forms, be it soil, adverse weather, lack of irrigation or floods, thermal drought, plant is under stress. So it cannot eliminate its toxin. It becomes the carrier of not only the plant the plant pathogens, but also they pass on the sick genes, that is horizontal gene flow. And microbial toxins, if these plants are not stored properly, then as in the case of aflatoxin, there are the accumulation of the toxins, and they lead to phytonosis, especially affecting the animals. And these animals may be the livestock or the wild animals, and then they serve as a source of emerging infectious diseases. If these plants are also consumed by humans, not only they pick up the infection from animals, primarily in the form of zoonosis, but they also pick up this infection from the soil, contaminated soil, that is saprogenosis. But environmental pollution, pesticide residue, heavy metal poisoning, and altered gene actions. Because a lot of things are being sprayed onto plant, which is going to the soil and finally contaminating the water bodies. And again, coming back to human and animals, making them sick, is called as bioecology of the whole health system. So here we can appreciate that how closely we are linked up when it comes to health, better called as One Health. This is the transmission cycle. If animal feed or environment or food animals per se, or their manure, here I would like to draw your attention to previous slides where the pathogens were primarily transmitted through the manure of those animals, which was used on the farms. and that manure was carrying the pathogen, be it Salmonella, Listeria, or anything. And this manure in Netherlands was given a special treatment to ensure that Coxella does not survive. Otherwise, it was impossible to control the Coxella. Hello. In manure. So foods products may be of animal origin or plant origin, which go to food processing units. Then they are converted into ready-to-eat foods, and finally they go to humans. These are some of the pathogens associated with beef and goat meat. These are some of the foodborne organisms that are commonly associated with the pork. And these are some of the foodborne organisms associated with chicken and eggs. Here I would like to especially mention Salmonella enteritidis, which does not bring any change in the color, flavor, or the smell of the product. It simply passes on from the shell of the egg to the inner content. So it is a major threat, and that's why poultry, we all know, is a major source of Salmonella enteritidis, and the infection is picked up from the hatchery itself, and the egg becomes a major source of infection, especially those who believe that eating the raw egg is a boon for the health. Here they need to be educated that your egg content may be contaminated with Salmonella enteritidis. So what if the shell is intact and you have purchased it fresh? So never use the egg without giving a proper heat treatment. Now, I shall be discussing with this regard to Campylobacteriosis, which is number one food-borne illness in the USA. This is the scenario all over the world. You can see 166 million diarrheal illness. Guillain-Barré syndrome is a frequent outcome where the ascending motor paralysis takes place. And finally, the person is unable to move from his place. He is bedridden and finally usually dies because there is no effective treatment of Guillain-Barré syndrome except giving the antibodies that are harvested from the serum of a healthy person. 37,600 deaths and 3.7 million daily losses. Foodborne transmission contribute to 58%. So poultry, basically, of course, other animals also are the major source of Campylobacteriosis. People need to be educated how to dress the poultry in a restaurant or in kitchen, and what care we should take to disinfect all the things that has directly or indirectly come in the contact of the chicken. Similarly, here also you can see with regard to Indian scenario, the prevalence of Campylobacteriosis is very, very high. And in Pune area, it has been recorded to be 57% and 72% in Calcutta. Now we never know how many of them they have become a case of Guillain-Barré syndrome when Campylobacter permanently makes a biofilm in the intestine. These are some of the, with poultry feces, how rich source it is. In Tamil Nadu, 67%, Bareilly up to 32%, Chandigarh 44%. So this is the kind of research wisdom actually that gives us idea that which pathogen is prevalent in India and what, when we are going to prioritize the diseases, what first we have to study the prevalence of these, and for that we have to have our own indigenous, rapid, reliable, and preferably on-site diagnostic tests. Otherwise, we cannot do this by purchasing the costly imported kits for their microbiological analysis. Now, this is the transmission. You all know that how they are transmitted in form of clinical manifestations, be it the contaminated food and water. But basically, these are come to the water bodies, and they also transmit it to the person. And once the person have the diarrhea, it is also transmitted from person to person with dirty hands. Similarly, Listeria, I had got a chance to work with my brilliant students and colleagues on this. And this was at that point of time a neglected pathogen. Only 2 cases were reported when I started work on it. And now today we know that how ubiquitously it is distributed in India. And it was considered as emerging pathogen by WHO in 1986. And since then the work on this. And you can see here through this comet-like structure, which is actin tail of this pathogen, it propels from one cell to another. So there is a cell-to-cell transmission, and this does not allow it to come in the extracellular space. That's why very few antibiotics are effective against the Listeria. And especially if it assumes the encephalitic form, then the case fatality rate is as high as 65 to 69%. Means one of the 3 diseased person have to die despite the availability of antibiotics. So this is the pathophysiology, which I will not touch upon, but I would rather like to focus on other things. Now, these are the some standards regulations. Here I would like to say, fortunately, we have got FSSAI, which deals with the standards, but where is the regulating body to register the reports, to coordinate, and to ensure the prevention and control of foodborne illnesses in India. These are some of the isolations made of Listeria monocytogenes from foods in India. Now, Listeria, especially like Coxella, Listeria, and Brucella, if they lead to mastitis, you don't have a cure. And you have to essentially cull the animal. That is the only approach you can adopt. But people hardly suspect that these zoonotic pathogens can be the cause of mastitis. Like hardly people can think of mycoplasmal mastitis. They only think of staph, streptococcus, E. coli, Klebsiella, and so on and so forth. It also leads to reproductive disorders, which is quite often these zoonotic pathogens are passed on to pregnant ladies, and they suffer with abortions and stillbirth. Likewise, these pathogens are finding new biological niche, and Dr. Barbude has worked on it, and he has shown that Listeria could be recovered from other sources like housefly, caterpillars. So this is another Q fever, which again was a neglected zoonosis, and I deliberately picked up these zoonotic diseases in my career because I thought that once a zoonosis is known as widely prevalent, then everybody plans to work on that. But what about the neglected zoonosis, what we call as a masked zoonosis? They are the silent killers. And it only came into prominence when the Netherlands outbreak took place in 2007 to 2012, and ignoring all the call of animal lovers across the globe, the Netherlands, what we also call as the Holland, decided to cull 58,000 sheep in order to contain the outbreak of Q fever that was spilling over from sheep and goats too. That is the largest goatery in the world to the human beings. Now you can imagine that what is the price one country has to pay if they neglect a zoonotic disease. This is the transmission and the geographical distribution. And this is our humble contributions made with the help of so many dedicated. And I think the first report, which is most cited from India in world literature, is of Dr. Vilas Vaidya, who isolated it and reported as a major cause of this abortions in women with spontaneous abortions. And you can see in abattoir workers, see 25% 6.8. This is from spontaneous abortions. That we could not only show the positivity by trans PCR, common PCR, IFA, but also isolated. So these are very challenging, but once you come out with solid scientific proof, then people start accepting and start working, and that is how we come to know the true prevalence of that disease. Zoonotic TB, again a problem, and to the height of it, that you don't find a mention even of zoonotic tuberculosis TB Mycobacterium bovis in the TB status book of India. That speaks volumes about the lack of coordination or a skewed opinion about a pathogen. They are only concerned with Mycobacterium tuberculosis, not with any other pathogen. So this issue speaks about that how much we are in habit of working in isolation. So the global distribution you can see here, Southeast Asia and Africa make the major chunk. Since it does not affect the Europe and others, they hardly are concerned about it. So India has to take a lead. Bovine tuberculosis cases, about 10% of human TB are caused by bovis. These are the estimates. Now, once you are not even thinking of it, then what would be the scenario, and whether we will be able to eliminate the TB in India is a big question. And of course, prevalence of bovine TB, only handful people are working on it, especially in veterinary settings. And even if it is 3.3 to 5%, it's a large chunk because it is spreading through air. Now these are, that's again I have mentioned here, and of course it is difficult to grow Mycobacterium bovis because it is dysgonic growth compared to Mycobacterium tuberculosis, which grows very fast and takes only 2 to 3 weeks on media, but Mycobacterium bovis takes 3 to 6 weeks. So by the time they don't use, and the media that is used to isolate Mycobacterium tuberculosis is inhibitory to Mycobacterium tuberculosis. So once the labs across the India under IDSP or any program, they are only using the media for Mycobacterium tuberculosis, how the Mycobacterium bovis will grow onto it. And that's why we don't find a mention of it. Now, foodborne viral infections, they are totally neglected in India. Only few people are working on rotaviruses. And well, this is incidence of foodborne viral diseases. This is again a very famous slide. So I hope most of you have seen it. This is the norovirus. Its ability to exist in aerosolized form. Relative environmentally, it is stable, resistant to common disinfectants, and very low infective dose, as less as 10 organisms are capable of causing infections. So Indian scenario, norovirus gastroenteritis in a birth cohort in southern India. The first report of norovirus documenting case. This came in the form of this reinfection of genetic susceptibility in Asian birth cohort. Reported high incidence, about 11% of noroviral infections. And that's why this kind of studies are needed to have the actual assessment of foodborne illnesses. Another is the rotavirus. As I told you, infectious dose is as less as 10 to 100 particles. And you have to keep a nursery. Usually when a child is born, the diarrhea is due to the rotavirus because that nursery is contaminated. And nursery has to be kept as per the WHO guidelines, minimum closed for 8 weeks. Who is going to keep a nursery closed for 8 weeks? And that is why we bring the rotaviral infection to our home through the newborn baby. And that is the problem. That's the problem. In Indian Syrian scenario, it is widely prevalent in pigs, bovines, and every species is suffering with that. And you can see the presentation of Dr. Dubal here, and the high prevalence by other workers also. So this is the disease and economic burden of rotavirus diarrheal disease in India. These are the estimates based on 2011 Indian birth cohort. Again, coming to viral hepatitis, we are well aware of this viral hepatitis A, which usually spreads through street vended foods because the person, when washes the feces after going for defecation, the virus is localized in the below the nails, and that is served along with the food or street vended foods to people, and that's why it is the major cause of infection. But what is not known is through E, and this also spreads through fecal oral route, And this has also been reported to cross this placenta barrier. So an infected mother can also pass on this infection to the fetus. And for that, for both of these things, not giving the emphasis on immunization, I would rather say that water must be safe. And then only, of course, this hepatitis B, it is, as we know, as serum hepatitis. So obviously now most of the people are taking care that to use a fresh razor when they are going. Otherwise, they will be picking up, and 7 out of 10 cases of hepatitis B, they develop into cancer. So that's why the serum hepatitis, which is having no treatment, is again a great threat. Hepatitis A, possible, this is enterohepatic cycle of HAV. It is stable even at a pH 1 and resistant to heat as high as 56 degrees for 30 minutes. So what I mean to emphasize here, that hygiene is the key. This is the hepatitis E virus, very liable and sensitive than hepatitis A virus. And this is the genotype 3, swine and human strains, and genotype 1 and 2 affects only human. So this is the cycle. You can see this is transmitted through various sources to human beings, and besides these animals also. But main is the cicada and pig and the seafoods, because they are not given a harsh treatment. Toxoplasmosis, again, one of the most widely spread zoonosis in the world, which is leading to, because it controls in the final stage the brain behavior, even of the rat. So now people are suspecting that those who are prone to road accidents, they have been infected by toxoplasmosis and they have got disturbed motor and sensory neurological efficiencies. Cysticercosis, as we know very well, because I had got a chance to have a lecture from Dr. Sujit from Neurohead AIMS, and he said that more than 70% of MRI having this neurocysticercosis, he was daily seeing, and to his surprise, most of them, they were vegetarians, not non-veg. So he said that the infection is coming through the salad, and that's why, because the pigs, they defecate over there, and the infection is being through proglottids, was being picked up through these salads, which are never given a heat treatment. So here are the active epilepsy as indicator of neurocysticercosis in rural Northwest India and in Vellore district, India. You can see here. And sometimes there are so many that you can't give any treatment, because if you give albendazole, immediately the patient will die. And see the prevalence of neurocysticercosis in patients with acute and active epilepsy, 38% in rural and 26% in urban. And prevalence of NCC in population has been estimated to 1 case in 1,000. Echinococcus is again, especially when dogs are free, what to talk of. I don't see any rabies control in near future, because again, nothing is coming in the form of, again, stray dogs are a great menace, and not only for rabies, but echinococcus also. They eat the offals from the abattoirs, and that is how it is being perpetuated in the nature and being spilled over to, you can see the cysts that are present in liver, spleen, and everywhere. Trichonellosis, again in the wild boar, it has been detected in a big way. It is a cause of threat, because the infection from domestic setting has gone into wild setting. Dr. Vilas has also come out with a test for this. So preventing and controlling human disease is transmitted by animals, saves millions of lives and keeping food safe leads to healthier people. If you talk of livestock and environment, if you see the global investment in control of malaria, the death is almost, if you see, are equal. So vector-borne zoonosis are a big threat, but food-borne zoonosis are not a small threat. Cost $110 billion. Cost to poorer countries is such a huge cost, and it can be simply by adopting to hygienic features and keeping our environment clean, soil clean, water clean, food clean, we can control these infections. Keeping livestock healthy and well cared for improves health. This is what we call as HACCP1. We have to raise very healthy livestock at farm. If an animal is infected by Salmonella, Brucella, Q fever, Listeria at the farm itself, cannot have. It will contaminate the entire food chain. And you cannot produce the healthy food from an infected animal. So this is most important at the farm level. And then comes, of course, the transport, then the processing, then the distribution, and finally the storage. And this approach, as we all know, is very popular and very relevant from farm to fork. So what is the key? How to go for it? Steps in foodborne outbreak in investigation. First, we have to detect a possible outbreak through public health surveillance. For that, we have to have a surveillance. Second, find more cases in the outbreak, then generate the hypothesis through interviews that whether it is a foodborne outbreak or something else. And finally, go for laboratory investigation. Then test the hypothesis to find likely source. And if no source is found, case continue, return to step 3. What we call as epidemiological investigation, solve source of the outbreak and ultimate point of contamination. This is most important because if needed, we have to go to the source and we have to recall the product from the shelf. And that is how we control the outbreak through recalls, facility improvement, and industry collaboration. And finally, we decide that an outcome is over and public is no longer at risk. Unless we transform this concept onto ground through this approach, nothing is going to happen, I sincerely believe. So workforce in foodborne outbreaks includes so many people: nurses, public health advisors, physicians, dentists, veterinarians, and epidemiologists. Take any developed world, veterinarians are at the helm of affair when it comes to food inspection and food quality control, what we call this. And it is not like India where food inspectors, they are not highly trained professionals. And it is left to the mercy of municipal corporations. And that's why you don't see any meaningful outcome of these efforts. Now and then we see that these premises have been raided. Some people have been booked. We do not know what was the fate, how many people fell ill, how many of them they died, what was the source, and who was producing, who was the culprit. Sanitary engineers, industrial hygienists, because they will ensure the clean water supply, statisticians, lawyers, so that to put them to penalize those people who are defaulters. Entomologists, especially in vector-borne, environmental health specialists, health educators. This is most important when it comes to veterinary. We will be only respected if society feels that veterinarians have educated them, which nobody has come forward to educate them. That's why the onus lies on us, social workers and masters in public health. Price of greatness is the responsibility, what rightly said Sir Winston Churchill. Unless we take the responsibility, nobody is going to respect us, and nor we are going to derive any satisfaction out of our work. So all hazard approach to foodborne outbreak is a One Health approach. We don't have kind of system the developed world has. You take UK, or you take USA, National Institute of Health, FDA, you take CDC, Food Safety and Inspection Services, FDA, CDC. Major data systems are used for foodborne illness and surveillance. I would like to quote something over here like FoodNet, Foodborne Disease Active Surveillance System, which tracks the laboratory confirmed cases. Now, first thing is the laboratory confirmed, targeting 9 pathogens. They have prioritized not that every pathogen, but first they have identified what are the most common 9 pathogens commonly transmitted through food, network of 10 states, USDA, SIS, and FDA. They are monitoring. Then comes National Outbreak Reporting System. Reporting is a must, and one should not be able to get any kind of medical help unless that fellow reports to a doctor, and doctor reports to the system like NORS, who collects the report of enteric disease outbreak. And finally, the big pandemic, which is silently going on, is the National AMR Monitoring System. So this AMR is being addressed already by National Antimicrobial Resistance Monitoring System, which tracks the AMR in human infections caused by Salmonella. We have gotten far at ICR, but a very few and very limited data has been analyzed, and this need to be taken on a war scale footing. So how does CDC react to an outbreak is here. I have already talked about that people are exposed to germ, get sick, and treatment, state and local health department conduct an investigation. So there must be an agency, top agency, to investigate and submit their data to CDC. Health department investigate and submit data to CDC. CDC downloads, verifies outbreak data with the state and local health department, and then analyzes and summarizes. And finally, they publish and make outbreak data available for a stakeholder. This is one act. Unless we share this data with all the stakeholders, be it a mall, be it a veterinary or municipal corporation or medical people, we are not going to control it. And they use the mass media to educate the people that this lot is contaminated with salmonella, be it of onion, lemon, or meat or anything. Please don't consume. These are the numbers. These are the stores that have supplied, and this was manufactured by this company. Now, I just for the sake of example, I am citing here CDC only for E. coli, say E. coli outbreak with unknown food source. And you see the investigation notice. This is fast facts. Illness 97, 13 new, hospitalization 43, 5 new, deaths 0. See, we need to appreciate their promptness. States 6, 2 are new, recall no, investigation status active. We have to transform our dreams into action, otherwise it is just talk and talk and talk. Most important in this is the food traceability information system. If we have to have a command over the system that we create, we must have the chain of traceability. At farm level of production, this is internal traceability. What I said, if the animal is detected as infected, just remove from the herd and check it. Then comes manufacturer or processor, factory, processing, packaging, again internal traceability. And then comes from the distributor or wholesaler point of view to the retailer and consumer. In distributor, it goes to warehouse, then distribution. Finally, it goes to retailer, supermarket, and retailing takes place. And finally, it goes to consumer. Here, the internal traceability, internal traceability, internal traceability. But at the same time, they have got external traceability because they go back. Wherever the things have gone wrong at any step, they immediately go back and stop the production from that unit which is supplying the contaminated food. And that emphasize on good manufacturing practices and good handling practices. Again, it comes to handling and manufacturing. And finally, that is only through HACCP, so that we precisely know what are the critical control points where the control can be exercised. And then the information flow, and immediately we correct. And in the process, we ensure that ISO standards are put in place by the technical quality management team. If you see here in terms of impact, foodborne illnesses caused by 31 major disease pathogens. They are very clear that what are the major food pathogens, and they know every single detail regarding these 31 pathogens. Out of this, estimates of the illness caused by 4 key pathogens tracked annually. And the top are the Salmonella, Campylobacter, Shigella-like producing E. coli, sub-zero group, O157H7, and Listeria Monocytogenes. And see, anybody, public can look at it, they can be educated through it, and they go in real-time mode. They also come out with weekly outbreak reports so that it shows that how much it is in India. In India, this what is under IDSP, they are coming to report it. But the point is this food poisoning. What is the source? What is the source of food poisoning? What was the bacteria? How many people infected? How many of them they died? How many of they recovered? Whether there was a food recall? It is simply reporting. It's not going to serve any purpose in India. So street vending ecosystem in India, 20 lakh street food vendors are there. You see, out of 100 lakh street vendors, they say that popular with all sections of society, but this is the now FSSAI has introduced a safety assured. Those who are getting registered with FSSAI, they are being trained. And this is a welcome step in this direction. Multiple initiatives has been taken, Swachh Bharat, Swachh Pakwan, Hunar Zaika. But the key is here that how efficiently we train our street vendors so that they are aware of these dangers and ensure that these pathogens are not transmitted to the consumers. And for that, we have to have an apex regulatory agency. So new regulatory environment have come, but the point is this, how effective they are. This is the Food Safety and Standards Act 2010, which Food Safety and Standards, actually it is a part of 2011, and in 2012 the Bureau of Indian Standard developed standards. But who is going to implement is the point. Project Clean Street Food is again, this is good. We have to support the people, but are they serving this food under natural, all the filled, all the contaminated air through traffic that gets deposited on this food, which is sold by the roadsides? How the people will become healthy is a point of introspection. It's not possible. It's only talk. So we can make our global brand, our street foods also as a global brand, provided we maintain the quality and safety of food. In this direction, NRC NEET under the dynamic leadership of Dr. S.V. Barbude has taken a lead to rope in the common masses into this by developing a hygienic slaughter and utilization of slaughterhouse waste. You can see here design portable meat production and detailing unit, the PMART, which is in high demand, rendering pet food processing plant. Here it is important. Pet foods quality is very important. Otherwise, the pet will become the source of infection in a household. So as the poultry processing plant, utilization of inedible poultry byproducts into safe, and these are the kind of hygienic meat productions that can be adopted and practiced. And for that, we have to train the people concerned, we have to certify them, and through periodic checking, we have to ensure that they are complying with the food safety standards or not. This is again will be cost effective and suitable for small scale sheep, goat processors. Up to 10 sheep they can handle and they can sell it. So this is kind of thing we have to evolve our own ways to deal with these problems. And this is most important. You cannot imagine the smart city concept unless you have got smart abattoirs, where the effluents are treated before they are discharged into rivers. So mobile and compact designs, hygienic meat production, and eco-friendly or animal welfare compliant slaughterhouse need to be developed, be it on large scale or at a small scale. Now you have EMSL kind of systems, analytical in USA. They immediately analyze the things and report it back that what was the cause. We have recently published a paper which has appeared in Indian Journal of Medical Research, Food Safety in Fisheries. Now you can see here that these are the pathogens. On left, it is bacterial agents, these are viral agents, and these are other biological toxins and others, agrochemicals. What actually affects as a whole the seafoods, the fish, and how we are going to tackle that without disturbing our ecosystem is the One Health approach. So I request you to please go through this kind of article. You will find the insights that what are the steps that we need to. So on policy front, we have to take pragmatic policy framing that include identification and linking of available workforce. We should know who are the expert and what are the tests and facilities available with them in human, animal, wildlife, and sea life setting for collaborative working. That is based on 3 principles of One Health: communicate, collaborate, and coordinate. Constitution of apex authority like CDC or anything for proper implementation and regulation of policy covering all stakeholders, be it government, private, street vendors, enterprise engaged in production to last, selling and inspection of food items. Now, these people must be highly empowered, knowledge empowered people who must be given the responsibility to ensure that food is safe. So for that, mandatory reporting of all cases and death due to food poisoning and diarrheal cases, be it case detail, vehicle, what is the implicated or suspected, their causes based on lab testing and confirmations, health status or hygiene status of food handler, compliance to GMP or GLP, prescriptions given and their responses for AMR determination, suspected food items and supplier, recalls needed or not, and the modalities of recalls and information to masses through TV, newspapers, incentives given for prompt self-declaration. This is again, a paper has come in Nature, where they have even by mistake, they have published a paper, they have recalled themselves. That kind of honesty, if somebody is showing that my product is contaminated, must follow, needs to be appreciated in public, and penalty imposed, if any, to the defaulters. On regulatory front, we must have policy implementation and strict compliance by statutory bodies. So essential reporting of all infectious disease in human, animal, wildlife, and sea life setting by public, private organization as well as NGO. Nobody should be spared the way it is being practiced in the developed world to a central agency who will take the decision and will coordinate, communicate for the effective prevention and control. We have to prioritize the disease. This agency will take the decision, early warning and control response, risk analysis, and progress monitoring. I have shown you the example of CDC and monitoring by concerned organizations like FSSAI, National Green Tribunal, or Central Pollution Board, local welfare bodies, and municipal corporation and NGOs. All need to be roped in because they are in the existing setup. And for what? Identification and authorization of food testing labs. They must be certified. That these labs only will certify, and they must be manned by competent manpower. Monitoring and regulation of disposal of bio-waste, hazard and garbage, and monitoring and assurance of quality of air, water, soil, and all food commodities. Then on awareness front, professionals, they need to be educated like you and me, so that they approach the high-risk groups: veterinarians, abattoir workers, farmers, livestock handlers, livestock owners, poultry, duck and bird rearers, and wildlife attendants. Common masses, especially those who do not know about anything, they are working on farm, handling animal or pets, sanitary workers, food inspectors, producers, food vendors, caterers, housewives, and students, and people engaged in livestock industry. Those who are engaged in dairy, poultry, swine, fish, they need to be, and zoo workers, educated. So this is about the sanitation and hygiene I have already shown you. And believe me, we can bring a sea change provided we use the mass media and we work collectively. Now, these are what is the take-home message: that to ensure food safety and prevent foodborne illness, one need to be performed by various stakeholders as Team One Health. Research institution, be it private and government, they need to develop rapid, reliable, on-site and indigenous detection of pathogen and toxin required to be developed and commercialized for real-time reporting. This is where we need to work as scientists and researchers. Farm managers, food producers, processors, distributors, handlers, and vendors, they bear the primary responsibility to produce disease-free food animals as well as to process, handle, distribute, and store the food produced hygienically. Consumers shall remain attentive and report the illness to doctor. The national governing agencies must enforce and implement pragmatic food safety regulations to safeguard public health, including the product recall, penalization, and imprisonment. Medical practitioners educate to prevent, they hardly educate the people. They only treat for foodborne illness with a safe diet under proper supervision and ethical practices, like giving a prescriptions as per WHO recommendations. Veterinarians, livestock producers, aquaculturists, and agriculturists shall collaborate with all their stakeholders such as FSSAI, municipal corporations, food inspectors in the light of chemical and pathogen spillover. And lastly, we need to collaborate and communicate, coordinate to investigate, prevent, record, report, prevent and control foodborne disease and intoxication. This is only possible if we have got primary data, and that we can only generate if we can implement One Health approach on ground as it is being practiced world over. These are some of the good readings or videos that I would like to go through. This is improving food safety through a One Health approach. And this is 115-page document workshop summary of improving food safety through a One Health approach. With this, I come to end of my presentation. Sorry for taking 10-15 minutes more, which actually I could have, but I thought of sharing these important points with you. I would like to thank my wonderful colleagues and students who have helped me and worked shoulder to shoulder with me throughout my life and making this presentation meaningful. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for very excellent lecture and informative talk. The whatever the real facts and figures in detail you have presented with relevance of One Health approach to food safety. Uh, Based on the whatever the slide presentations, all to the participants, and we can assume that how much efforts are taken, and you have whatever the information you have presented that for the benefit of the society. Uh, all the informations focused on whatever the foodborne diseases, then One Health concept in a real sense, in a systematic manner, sir. You have elaborated in that whatever the human health, animal health, and environmental health. It's a real picture you have shown to all the participants related to this aspect. So, thanks once again, sir. Now, I request the participants for the questions, please.
Hello.
Hello.
I think if there is no any question, thank you, sir. And I reached office late yesterday. I was there in university for the important meeting. I reached home in the midnight, so I could not attend
Hello.
the lecture. And your lecture I heard. Uh, anybody want to speak or ask question?
Yes, sir.
You just introduce your name and then you ask question.
Sir, my name is Lokesh and I am from Navania, Udaipur. And my question is, sir, what is benefits for a veterinarian for admitted in public health, like Institute of Public Health?
Here in at IVRI or any organization, I would like to know.
Yes, sir. But
Okay. See, veterinary public health, actually, it serves as a bridge, as you know, between medical and veterinary professions. And this is the, actually, you take any UK, Australia, New Zealand, or USA. Now, these quality control of foods, including beverages, You take Canada, any country. It is manned by specialists from veterinary public health only. The reason being the food comes from plant origin or animal origin. And animal, they are the prime source of zoonotic diseases and also the wildlife. So we represent our profession to the world and we serve as a bridge. So if, of course, the scope is enormous and sky is the limit. But as a overall approach, what is best described, my dear, by One Health approach, actually this is veterinary public health. And in this, as a veterinarian, I think we can play a pivotal role because I have spoken on several other occasions where the veterinarians, they have got far better understanding of zoonotic diseases, how to control and prevent these infections in animals, which is key to the success when we want to control whether zoonotic diseases, foodborne infection or intoxication or eco health. Veterinarians are the key because they deal with wildlife. Oh, I mean, forest people, they don't know about the wildlife diseases. It is the veterinarians who treat them. You take off livestock production, right from production to distribution. Who is at the helm of the affair? That whether food is contaminated or not, where from the source is coming. So that way, the scope is, I mean, to me, it's huge. But
Yes,
the
sir.
responsibility is also very high, very high.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Welcome, dear.
Okay. Is anybody there? Okay, I think sir has detailed, elaborated all the aspects of the One Health and with the latest information in each category of the One Health. So it is better understand by all the participants. I think that could be the reason there is no question. So thank you so much, sir, for
Welcome, my pleasure.
accepting our invitation in a very short period of time and presenting your very good talk. Even though I was traveling, I was heard even while driving the car also. So thank you so much, sir. Being with
Thank
us
you.
and shared your not only the latest development but your experience also through your lecture and motivated all the budding our VPH, LPT and other discipline participants, PGP students and faculties also. Thank you so much, sir, from my side.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to interact with my own people. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir.
Okay, welcome, dear. Welcome. Thank you.
Now, I declare that today's session is over, and tomorrow we will again meet at 10:45 a.m. Yeah, on Monday. Yes, on Monday, 26th September, we will meet again, and we will have again two eminent speakers, Dr. M.A. Malik. He is working as professor and head division of veterinary public health and epidemiology. Sher Kashmir University of Agricultural Sciences and Technology, Jammu and Kashmir. And Malik sir will present his talk on zoonosis, present status and strategies. And then second speaker, Dr. Ajit Shevade. He is presently working as Assistant Director NCDC, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Delhi, and he will talk on One Health initiatives in human health sector for disease control. So thank you all, dear participants, for your in all the sessions you have heard very nicely and patient hearing. Thank you one and all. Now I declare with the permission of chair, I declare that today's session is over. Thank you.